Earth's Deathworlders answered the SOS, and the galaxy regretted it. The distress signal had been broadcasting for 17 days when Captain Taman first heard it. The message crackled through the static of deep space, a desperate plea in the universal trade language that all spacefaring species understood. This is Captain Yoongi of the research vessel Harmony's Edge. We have suffered critical engine failure near the Vale Nebula. Life support failing. Requesting immediate assistance from any vessel in range. Please respond. Taman sat in the captain's chair of his cargo hauler, the Iron Crane, and listened to the message repeat for the third time. His ship was old but reliable, built for the long hauls between Earth's outer colonies and the inner systems. The cargo holds were full of supplies for the mining station on Kepler 186F, and they were already 2 days behind schedule. Captain, that signal is coming from the Vale sector, said Bora from the engineering station. She was a small woman with quick hands and an even quicker mind. Her fingers danced across the control panels as she pulled up the navigation charts. That's forbidden space. No one goes there. Why? Asked Taman, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Gravitational anomalies, unstable star formations, and hostile wildlife, said Hyunwoo from the security station. The former Marine was cleaning his sidearm, a habit he had picked up during his years in the Earth Defense Force. The sector is a death trap. That's why it's off limits to civilian traffic. Taman studied the star charts on the main screen. The Vale Nebula was a swirling mass of gas and dust that stretched across several light years. Inside its depths, dead stars created pockets of twisted space-time that could tear a ship apart. And that was before considering the creatures that lived in the nebula's depths. How far out are they? He asked. Bora checked her instruments. About 6 hours at maximum speed, but Captain, we can't go in there. The Iron Crane isn't built for that kind of environment. She'll hold together, said Taman. She always has. That's not the point, said Hyunwoo, looking up from his weapon. Even if we reach them, how do we get back out? Those gravitational fields will crush us. Taman was quiet for a long moment. He had been hauling cargo through space for 15 years, ever since humanity had developed faster-than-light travel. In all that time, he had never lost a crew member or failed to deliver his cargo. But he had also never ignored a distress call. They've been broadcasting for over 2 weeks, he said finally. If anyone else was going to help them, they would have done it by now. There's a reason for that, said Bora. It's suicide. Maybe, said Taman, but I won't leave people to die if there's a chance we can save them. He turned to face his crew. Both Bora and Hyunwoo had been with him for 5 years. They had faced pirates, mechanical failures, and the endless dangers of deep space together. They trusted him, and he trusted them. I'm not ordering anyone to come with me, he said, but I'm going in. If you want to take the shuttle and head back to the colony, I understand. Bora laughed, but there was no humor in it. And let you fly my ship into a nebula by yourself? I don't think so. Someone has to make sure the engines don't explode. Hyunwoo shook his head and holstered his weapon. You're both crazy. But I've followed you this far. Might as well see how this ends. Taman smiled. Then plot a course for the Vale Nebula. Maximum speed. The Iron Crane changed course, its powerful engines pushing the ship toward the swirling mass of the nebula. As they drew closer, the ship's sensors began to pick up the strange readings that made the Vale sector so dangerous. Gravity wells appeared and disappeared without warning. Electromagnetic storms raged through the gas clouds. And somewhere in the distance, massive shapes moved through the darkness. I'm getting a clearer signal from the distress beacon, said Bora. It's definitely coming from inside the nebula, about 3 light minutes in. Any word on what kind of ship they are? Asked Hyunwoo. The beacon identifies them as a Galactic Council research vessel, said Taman, reading from his display. Mixed crew of Altarians and Centaurans. Both Bora and Hyunwoo looked surprised. Humans had heard rumors of other spacefaring species, but they had never made contact. Earth's expansion into space had been slow and careful, focusing on establishing colonies in the outer rim territories where no one else seemed to go. First contact, said Bora quietly. This could change everything. If we survive long enough to tell anyone about it, said Hyunwoo. The iron crane entered the outer edges of the nebula, and immediately the ship began to shake as gravitational forces pulled at its hull. Bo-Ra's hands flew over her controls, adjusting power distribution and compensating for the ever-changing conditions. Hull stress is within acceptable limits, she reported, but just barely. On the main screen, the nebula surrounded them like a living thing. Gases in every color of the spectrum swirled past the ship, lit by the glow of dying stars. In the distance, something large and serpentine moved through the clouds, its scales catching the light. Space whale, said Hyunwoo, pointing at the creature. Must be at least a kilometer long. They're actually quite peaceful, said Taemin. As long as you don't threaten their young. How do you know that? Asked Bo-Ra. I read the survey reports from the outer colonies. The miners run into them sometimes. They flew deeper into the nebula, following the distress signal. The gravitational anomalies grew stronger, and twice Bo-Ra had to reroute power to the structural integrity field to prevent the ship from being torn apart. There, said Hyunwoo, pointing at the main screen. I've got them on sensors. The Harmony's Edge hung motionless in a pocket of relatively calm space, surrounded by the swirling gases of the nebula. The ship was sleek and elegant, nothing like the functional design of human vessels. But it was clearly in trouble. Scorch marks covered its hull, and one of its engine nacelles was completely dark. They're not responding to our hails, said Bo-Ra. Life support is failing. I'm reading multiple hull breaches. Taemin activated the ship's communication system. Harmony's Edge, this is Captain Taemin of the cargo vessel Iron Crane. We received your distress call and are here to assist. Please respond. Static filled the channel for several seconds. Then a weak voice came through the speakers. Iron Crane, this is Captain Yoon-gi. Thank the stars someone heard us. We have been trapped, here for 17 days. Our engines are dead, and we have less than 6 hours of life support remaining. Understood, Harmony's Edge. We're moving to dock with your ship now. Prepare to receive assistance. Wait, said the alien captain. And there was something strange in his voice. What species are you? I don't recognize your ship design. Taemin looked at his crew. This was the moment that would change everything. We're human, Captain. From the planet Earth. There was a long silence on the communication channel. When Captain Yoon-gi spoke again, his voice was filled with something that sounded like fear. Human? But humans are just a myth. A story told to frighten children. I assure you we're quite real, said Taemin, and we're here to help. Bo-Ra was already maneuvering the iron crane alongside the alien vessel, preparing to dock. Hyunwoo was gathering emergency supplies and medical equipment. Neither of them seemed concerned about the alien captain's reaction. But Taemin was beginning to realize that this first contact might be more complicated than he had expected. For some reason, the galaxy already knew about humanity, and they were afraid. Earth's Deathworlders answered the SOS, and the galaxy regretted it. The docking process took longer than expected. The Harmony's Edge used a different connection system than human ships, but Bo-Ra managed to create a seal using emergency patches and some creative engineering. When the airlock finally opened, Taemin got his first look at an alien species. Captain Yoon-gi was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large eyes that seemed to take up half his face. He moved with careful, deliberate steps, as if walking required great effort. Behind him stood several other crew members, all watching the humans with expressions of pure terror. Captain Yoon-gi, said Taemin, extending his hand in greeting. I'm glad we found you in time. The alien captain stared at Taemin's outstretched hand as if it were a weapon. He took several steps backward, bumping into one of his crew members. You're really human, whispered Yoon-gi. I can't believe it, you actually exist. Of course we exist, said Bo-Ra, stepping through the airlock with a toolbox in her hands. Now where's your engine room? We need to see how bad the damage is. The aliens scattered as she walked past them. One of them, a creature with 4 arms and skin like tree bark, actually fainted and had to be caught by his companions. I don't understand, said Taimin. Why are you all so afraid of us? We're here to help. Captain Yoongi's large eyes grew even wider. You don't know, do you? You don't know what the galaxy thinks of your kind. Obviously not, said Yunwoo, who was carrying a medical kit. Want to fill us in? The alien captain looked around at his terrified crew, then back at the 3 humans. Perhaps we should go to my cabin. This conversation requires privacy. They walked through the corridors of the alien ship, and Taimin was amazed by the differences in design. Everything was smooth and curved, with soft lighting that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The ceiling was much higher than necessary for the alien crew, creating an open, peaceful feeling. Your ship is beautiful, said Taimin. Thank you, said Yoongi, though he still kept his distance. It was designed for long-term scientific research. We study star formation in the outer regions. Dangerous work, said Bo-Ra, examining the wall panels as they walked, especially in a place like the Veil Nebula. We had hoped to study the gravitational anomalies, said Yoongi. But our calculations were wrong. We became trapped in a gravity. Well, and our engines were damaged by the stress. They reached the captain's cabin, which was even more impressive than the rest of the ship. One wall was made entirely of transparent aluminum, providing a view of the swirling nebula outside. Comfortable chairs were arranged around a low table, and soft music played from hidden speakers. Please sit, said Yoongi, though he remained, standing near the door as if ready to flee. Taimin took a seat and gestured for his crew to do the same. Now, what's this about the galaxy being afraid of humans? Yoongi was quiet for a long moment, staring at them with those large eyes. How long have your people been traveling in space? About 20 years, said Taimin. We've been establishing colonies in the Outer Rim territories. The Death Zone, whispered Yoongi. What? That's what we call those systems. The Death Zone. Worlds too hostile for any civilized species to survive. We never imagined that anyone actually lived there. Bo-Ra laughed. Hostile? Those are some of the nicest planets we've found. Good atmosphere, reasonable gravity, plenty of resources. Kepler 442b has acid rain and carnivorous plant, said Yoongi. Kepler 186f is constantly bombarded by radiation from solar flares, and Proxima Centauri b is tidally locked with temperatures that vary by 200 degrees. So, said Hyunwoo, you work with what you've got. A little acid rain never hurt anyone. The alien captain stared at them in disbelief. You consider those conditions pleasant? Compared to Earth, they're paradise, said Taimin. Earth, repeated Yoongi. Tell me about your homeworld. Taimin described Earth as he remembered it. The blue skies and white clouds, the vast oceans, filled with life, the forests and mountains and deserts. To him it was the most beautiful place in the universe. But as he spoke, Captain Yoongi's face grew paler. Variable star output, he whispered. Tectonic activity, atmospheric storms, predatory wildlife. What about it? Your world is classified as a Class 12 death world in our databases. Theoretical models suggested that complex life might evolve there, but we never believed it was possible. And certainly not intelligent life. Death world? Said Bo-Ra. That seems a bit harsh. The gravity alone should have crushed you, said Yoongi. How do you even stand upright? To demonstrate, Bo-Ra casually lifted the heavy table with one hand and moved it aside. The alien captain stumbled backward and nearly fell. Gravity on our ship is set to Earth normal, she said. About 10 meters per second squared. What's the gravity on your world? 4.2, whispered Yoongi. That explains why you move so carefully, said Hyunwoo. You probably weigh twice as much here as you do at home. And you're not even struggling, said Yoongi. This environment should be crushing you, but you act as if it's nothing. Because it is nothing, said Taimin. We grew up in twice this. Gravity. This actually feels light to us. Captain Yoongi sank into one of the chairs, his legs seeming unable to support him anymore. The stories are true. You really are Deathworlders, creatures from hell itself, adapted to survive in conditions that would kill any civilized being. We prefer to think of ourselves as adaptable, said Bora. But why are you here? Asked Yoongi. Why did you come to save us? Because you asked for help, said Taemin simply. But we're aliens, complete strangers, and you risked your lives to save us. So, don't you want something in return? Resources, territory, slaves? The three humans looked at each other in confusion. We want to make sure you get home safely, said Taemin. That's all. I don't understand, said Yoongi. You're predators, apex hunters from a world of death. Why would you help your prey? Prey? Said Hyunwoo, raising an eyebrow. Is that what you think you are? What else could we be? You could kill us all with your bare hands. Your ship could destroy ours without effort. We are completely at your mercy. Taemin stood up slowly, trying not to startle the alien captain. Captain Yoongi, I think there's been a misunderstanding. Yes, humans are physically strong compared to your species. Yes, our world is harsher than yours, but that doesn't make us monsters. Then what does it make you? Neighbors, said Taemin. Just neighbors who happened to hear your call for help. But even as he said it, Taemin could see that Captain Yoongi didn't believe him. The alien was already planning what he would tell his superiors when he got home. He was already composing the report that would change how the galaxy viewed humanity forever. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Taemin wondered if coming to the rescue had been a mistake, because it was clear that the galaxy wasn't ready for neighbors from a death world. Bora's voice came over the comm system. Captain, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is I can fix their engines. The bad news is it's going to take about 6 hours. Do what you can, said Taemin. We're not leaving without them. Captain Yoongi stared at him with those large, frightened eyes. You really mean that, don't you? Of course I do, said Taemin. Nobody dies on my watch. Earth's Deathworlders answered the SOS, and the galaxy regretted it. Dr. Insu stared at the data transmission that had arrived from the Veil Nebula. As the Galactic Council's chief xenobiologist, he had seen many strange things in his career, but nothing had prepared him for this. Computer-run classification analysis on the species designated human, he said to his workstation. The artificial intelligence began processing the biological data that Captain Yoongi had secretly recorded during the rescue. Height, weight, muscle density, bone structure, reaction time, and dozens of other measurements appeared on the screen. Analysis complete, said the computer. Warning, subject species shows impossible biological characteristics. Define impossible, said Insu. Bone density is 4 times galactic average. Muscle fiber composition suggests strength levels comparable to industrial machinery. Cardiovascular system appears designed for high-stress combat situations. Neural response time indicates enhanced reflexes beyond theoretical maximums. Insu frowned at the data. What about their homeworld? Cross-reference with stellar databases. The screen filled with information about Earth. Location, star type, planetary characteristics, atmospheric composition, geological activity. As Insu read through the data, his blood ran cold. This can't be right, he whispered. Computer, confirm planetary classification for the world designated Earth. Confirmed. Planet Earth rates as Class 12 Death World. Extreme environmental hazards include variable stellar radiation, seismic instability, severe weather patterns, gravitational stress, and hostile ecosystem. Class 12, repeated Insu. That's the highest rating on the scale. Correct. Class 12 worlds are considered unsuitable for complex life. No known species has ever evolved naturally on a Class 12 world, until now, said Insu. He pulled up the video recording of the human engineer lifting the massive table. According to the ship's sensors, that table weighed over 200 kilograms. She had lifted it with one hand as if it were made of paper. Computer, analyze muscle requirements for observed feat of strength. Analysis indicates subject would need muscle density equivalent to compressed metallic fibers. Such density should make movement impossible due to metabolic requirements. But they move normally, said Insu. Better than normal. They're faster and stronger than any known species, yet they show no signs of strain. He opened another file, this one containing the navigation logs from human ships. The data had been collected by long-range sensors as humanity established their colonies in the Outer Rim territories. Look at these worlds, he muttered, studying the list. Kepler 442b, Kepler 186f, Proxima Centauri b, Wolf 1061c. Every single one is classified as uninhabitable. Correction, said the computer. Current classification shows those worlds as inhabited by human colonies. Population estimates range from 10,000 to 50,000 per world. They're not just surviving on Deathworlds, said Insu. They're thriving on them. The implications hit him like a physical blow. If humans could live comfortably on Class 8 and 9 Deathworlds, what did that make them? What kind of monsters had evolved in the hell of a Class 12 world? His communication console chimed with an incoming message. It was from Admiral Wu Jin of the Human Colonial Survey, transmitted on an open frequency that anyone could intercept. This is Admiral Wu Jin to all Colonial Survey vessels. We've received reports of a first contact situation in the Vale Nebula. Captain Tae Min of the Iron Crane has successfully rescued a Galactic Council research vessel. All survey ships are advised to maintain current operations and render assistance to any vessels in distress. Let's show the galaxy that Earth's children are good neighbors. Insu played the message 3 times. The casual tone, the mention of multiple survey vessels, the reference to current operations. This wasn't first contact for humanity. They had been operating in galactic space for years, maybe decades. Computer, search all sensor logs for ships matching human design characteristics. The search took several minutes. When it finished, Insu stared at the results in horror. Over 300 contacts in the past 5 years alone. Human ships had been detected throughout the Outer Rim territories, always in regions considered too dangerous for normal traffic. They've been here all along, he whispered. We just didn't notice because they're operating in the dead zone. He opened a communication channel to the Galactic Council chambers. Within minutes, he was connected to the emergency session that had been called to discuss the human contact. Counselors, said Insu, I have completed my analysis of the human species. You need to see this data immediately. The main screen in the council chambers filled with his research. Representatives from dozens of species stared at the biological impossibilities that defined humanity. This is clearly an error, said Counselor Veltar of the Centauran Union. No species could evolve under such conditions. The data has been verified multiple times, said Insu. These beings are exactly what they appear to be. Apex predators from the most hostile world in known space. But they saved Captain Yoongi's crew, said Counselor Zindal of the Altarian Republic. Surely that proves they are peaceful. Does it? Asked Insu. Or does it prove they are even more dangerous than we imagined? Think about it. They risked their lives to save complete strangers, expecting nothing in return. What kind of society produces individuals with that level of dedication? The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. A species that would risk everything to save strangers was a species that would stop at nothing to protect their own. How many of them are there? Asked Counselor Veltar quietly. Insu consulted his data. Current estimates suggest a total population of approximately 8 billion on their homeworld, with another 50 million spread across various colonies. 50 million Deathworlders living in the Outer Rim, whispered Counselor Zindal. How did we not know about this? Because they've been deliberately staying in regions we consider uninhabitable, said Insu. They've been expanding through the galaxy's blind spots. On his private communication channel, Commander Wu Jin of the Human Colonial Survey was reviewing the intercepted galactic communications with dark amusement. The galaxy's intelligence networks were surprisingly easy to monitor once you knew what to look for. They're calling us Deathworlders, he said to his aide, Captain Young Ho. Is that supposed to be an insult? Asked Young Ho. I think it's supposed to be terrifying, said Wu Jin. They seem to think we're some kind of monsters. Well, to be fair, we did evolve on Earth. Remember what happened when the Centauran trade delegation visited? 3 of them fainted just from the gravity. That was set to lunar gravity. We were trying to be nice. Young-ho laughed. Maybe we should invite some of them to visit Earth. Show them a real death world. I don't think their medical technology is advanced enough to keep them alive, said Wu Jin. Besides, we have bigger problems now. Such as? The galaxy knows we exist. They're scared of us. And they're starting to realize that we've been quietly spreading through their territory for 20 years. Young-ho's expression grew serious. What do we do? What we've always done, said Wu Jin. We help anyone who needs help. We explore new worlds. We take care of our people. And we let the galaxy figure out that we're not the monsters they think we are. And if they decide to attack us first, then they'll learn why you don't pick a fight with Deathworlders, said Wu Jin grimly. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, the debate continued. But Dr. Insu was no longer paying attention. He was studying the navigation data from human ships, looking for patterns in their movements. What he found made his blood run even colder. The humans weren't just exploring randomly. They were establishing supply depots, emergency shelters, and communication relays throughout the dead zone. They were building an infrastructure that spanned dozens of star systems. They weren't just expanding into the galaxy, they were preparing to own it. Earth's Deathworlders answered the SOS, and the galaxy regretted it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going for 6 hours. Representatives from 47 species sat in the Great Chamber on Galactic Central Station, all trying to decide what to do about the human problem. Counselor Young-ho sat quietly in the back row, representing the Independent Colony Federation. Nobody knew that the ICF was actually a human organization, and he intended to keep it that way for as long as possible. His false identity and genetic modifications made him appear to be a minor species from the Outer Rim territories. The situation is clear, said War Marshal Seok-jin of the proud Vegan Empire. These Deathworlders represent an existential threat to galactic civilization. They must be stopped before they can establish a foothold in our space. They already have a foothold, said Dr. Insu from the Science Council podium. Our analysis suggests they've been operating in the dead zone for over 20 years. They have established colonies on dozens of worlds we consider uninhabitable. All the more reason to act quickly, said Seok-jin. Every day we delay gives them more time to strengthen their position. Counselor Veltar of the Centauran Union raised a delicate hand. Perhaps we are being too hasty. The humans rescued Captain Yoongi's crew. Surely that demonstrates peaceful intentions. Or it demonstrates how dangerous they are, said Seok-jin. Think about it. They flew into the Veil Nebula without hesitation, a region that our best ships cannot navigate safely. They treated it like a routine mission. Because to them it probably was routine, said Dr. Insu. These beings evolved on a world that makes the Veil Nebula look safe by comparison. Young-ho listened to the debate with growing concern. The galaxy was working itself into a state of panic over humanity's existence. He had expected fear, but not this level of hysteria. What do you propose, Noni? Asked Counselor Zindal of the Altarian Republic. Military action, said Seok-jin without hesitation. A preemptive strike against their colonies before they can organize. A defense. You want to attack people who saved our citizens? Asked Veltar. I want to protect the galaxy from an invasion of Deathworlders, said Seok-jin. These beings are natural-born killers. They come from a world of constant warfare and death. It's only a matter of time before their predatory instincts take over. Young-ho had heard enough. He activated his communication device and sent a coded message to Earth Command. If the galaxy was planning military action against human colonies, Earth needed to know immediately. Counselor Young-ho, said the session moderator. You represent one of the Outer Rim Federations. What is your opinion on this matter? Young-ho stood up, his heart racing. This was the moment he had been dreading. With respect, War Marshal Seok-jin, I think you are making a serious mistake. Oh? And why is that? Because you are assuming these humans think like you do, said Young-ho. You assume they want to conquer and dominate because that's what the vegan empire would do, but what if you're wrong? They're predators, said Seok-jin firmly. Apex hunters from a death world. Conquest is in their nature. Is it? Asked Young-ho. Or is survival in their nature? There's a difference. Dr. Mi-young, who worked in the Council's research division and was secretly human like Young-ho, activated the main display screen. Perhaps we should examine the evidence more carefully. The screen filled with video footage that had been secretly recorded by various species throughout the Outer Rim territories. It showed human colonists working on hostile worlds, building settlements, farming alien crops, raising families. This footage was taken on Kepler 442b, said Mi-young. Note the acid rain falling in the background. Those humans are working in conditions that would kill most of us within minutes. But look at their behavior. The video showed human children playing in the acid rain, laughing and splashing in puddles that would dissolve most organic materials. Their parents watched from nearby, showing no concern for the deadly environment. They're not warriors, said Mi-young. They're families. They're trying to build a life in the only places they can survive. That proves nothing, said Seok-jin. All species protect their young. It doesn't make them peaceful. Mi-young switched to another video, this one showing a human rescue operation on Wolf 1061C. A mining accident had trapped several workers in a collapsed tunnel filled with toxic gases. The rescue team wore minimal protective equipment and worked with impossible speed to reach the trapped miners. This rescue operation took place in an atmosphere that would kill most of us in seconds, said Mi-young. But watch what happens when they bring the miners out. The video showed human rescue workers giving medical treatment to alien miners who had been working illegally in human space. Instead of arresting them or demanding payment, the humans provided medical care and transportation to the nearest space station. They saved illegal miners who were stealing from their territory, said Mi-young. Does that sound like the behavior of aggressive conquerors? The council chamber was quiet as representatives absorbed this information. Young-ho could see doubt creeping into their faces. Maybe, just maybe, they could avoid a war. One more thing, said Mi-young. She switched the display to show communication logs from human ships throughout the Outer Rim. These are distress calls that human vessels have responded to over the past 5 years. The list scrolled across the screen. Hundreds of incidents, ships in distress, colonies facing natural disasters, mining operations that had encountered dangerous wildlife. In every case, human vessels had responded to help, often at great risk to themselves. They've been saving our people for years, said Veltar quietly, and we never even knew they existed. Because they operate in regions we consider too dangerous, said Mi-young. They're not hiding from us. They're just living in places we can't go. War Marshal Seok-jin stood up, his face red with anger. This is all very touching, but it doesn't change the facts. These Deathworlders are spreading through our galaxy. They're establishing colonies and building infrastructure in strategic locations. Whether their intentions are peaceful now doesn't matter. Eventually their nature will assert itself. What if you're wrong? Asked Young-ho. What if they really are just trying to survive and help others? What if attacking them makes them into the enemies you fear? Then we deal with that when it happens, said Seok-jin. But we cannot allow a species of apex predators to gain a foothold in civilized space. The session moderator called for a vote. The question before us is whether to authorize military action against human colonies in the Outer Rim territories. All in favor? 23 hands were raised. All opposed? 24 hands went up, including Young-ho's. The motion failed by a single vote. Seok-jin's face twisted with rage. This is a mistake that the galaxy will regret. Mark my words, these Deathworlders will be the end of us all. As the session ended, Young-ho sent another coded message to Earth. Command. The immediate threat of military action had passed, but the galaxy remained fearful and divided. The situation was far from resolved. Dr. Mi-young approached him as the representatives filed out of the chamber. That was close, she said, quietly in Korean. Too close, replied Young-ho in the same language. How long before they figure out who we really are? Not long, said Mi-young. But maybe it won't matter. Maybe we can convince them that we're not the monsters they think we are. Young-ho looked around at the departing counselors, many of whom were still arguing about the human threat. Or, maybe we just made everything worse. Now they know we're here and they're scared. That's a dangerous combination. What choice did we have? Let them attack our colonies? No, said Young-ho. But now we have to live with the consequences. The galaxy knows about us and they're divided between fear and curiosity. That's not a stable situation. As they left the council chambers, neither of them noticed War Marshal Seok-jin speaking quietly with several other military representatives. The vote had failed, but that didn't mean the galaxy's most aggressive species would accept defeat. The war Young-ho feared might still be coming. Earth's Deathworlders answered the SOS, and the galaxy regretted it. The attack on Kepler 442b came without warning. Colony Administrator Hae-won was reviewing the monthly harvest reports when the first explosions lit up the morning sky. Might, her office window. She could see the orange flames of burning grain silos mixing with the acid rain that fell constantly on the agricultural world. "Ma'am, we have incoming hostile vessels," reported Communications Officer Dongmin from the colony's command center. "Multiple ships, unknown configuration approaching from the outer system." Hae-won ran through the corridors of the administrative complex, her boots splashing through puddles of acid rain that had leaked through the building's seals. The colonists had learned to live with the hostile environment, but it made military defense nearly impossible. "How many ships?" she asked as she reached the command center. 57 confirmed contacts, said Dongmin. They're broadcasting on military frequencies, identifying themselves as the hegemony of 9 suns. "Never heard of them," said Hae-won. "What do they want?" "They're demanding our immediate surrender," said Dongmin. "They claim this world belongs to them now." Hae-won looked around the command center at the 12 people who made up the colony's entire administrative staff. They were farmers and engineers, not soldiers. The colony's only weapons were a few hunting rifles and some mining explosives. "Send a message to Earth Command," she said. "Priority 1 emergency. We are under attack by unknown hostiles and request immediate assistance." "Ma'am, the nearest Earth Defense Force ship is 6 months away," said Dongmin. "Then we'll have to hold out until help arrives," said Hae-won. Outside, the alien ships began landing in the colony's agricultural zones. Hae-won could see them through the command center's reinforced windows. They were sleek and predatory, designed for warfare rather than exploration. Hundreds of armed figures poured out of the ships and began advancing toward the settlement. "All colonists to emergency shelters," ordered Hae-won over the colony's communication system. "This is not a drill. We are under attack by hostile forces." The people of Kepler 442b had drilled for this scenario, though they had hoped it would never happen. 2,000 colonists made their way to the underground shelters that had been built into the bedrock beneath the settlement. The shelters were designed to protect against the planet's acid storms, but they would also provide some protection against military attack. "Incoming transmission," said Dongmin. "It's from the lead attack ship." "Put it on speaker," said Hae-won. A harsh voice filled the command center. "Human colonists, this is War Commander Seok-jin of the Hegemony of 9 Suns. By order of the Galactic Defense Coalition, you are commanded to abandon this world immediately." "Galactic Defense Coalition?" said Hae-won. "I thought the Galactic Council voted against military action." "The Council may lack the courage to deal with the Deathworlder threat," said the voice, "but the civilized species will not stand idle while predators infest our galaxy." Hae-won activated the communication system. "War Commander Seok-jin, I am Colony Administrator Hae-won. This world was legally settled under interstellar law. We have done nothing to threaten you or anyone else." "Your very existence is a threat," said Seok-jin. "Deathworlders cannot be allowed to establish a foothold in civilized space. You have 1 hour to evacuate before we begin orbital bombardment." "We're farmers," said Hae-won. "We grow food and raise families. We're not warriors. You are predators. From a world of death. Your peaceful facade does not fool us." The communication ended, and Hae-won stared at the tactical display showing the alien ships surrounding the colony. They had come here expecting to fight monsters, and instead they Found people trying to grow crops in acid rain. Ma'am, I'm getting a response from Earth Command, said Dongmin. Put it through. Admiral So-young's voice came through the speakers. Colony Administrator Haewon, this is Admiral So-young of the 3rd Fleet. We received your distress call. Help is on the way. Admiral, the nearest EDF ship is 6 months out, said Haewon. Not anymore, said So-young. We've been expecting something like this ever since the Galactic Council meeting. The 3rd Fleet has been stationed in the Outer Rim territories for the past month. How long until you arrive? 18 hours. Can you hold out until then? Haewon looked at the tactical display again. 57 warships against a farming colony with no defenses. We'll do our best. Good. And Administrator Haewon, tell your people to stay in the shelters. When we arrive, things are going to get very loud. The next 18 hours were the longest in the colony's history. The alien forces landed and began systematically destroying the settlement's infrastructure. They burned the grain silos, demolished the processing facilities, and destroyed the water purification plants. But they didn't attack the shelters. Seok-jin seemed content to demonstrate his power by destroying property rather than killing civilians. He was making a point, showing the galaxy that humans could be defeated and driven from their worlds. When the 3rd Fleet arrived, the aliens were completely unprepared for what they faced. Captain Do-hyun commanded the lead ship, a vessel that appeared to be a simple cargo hauler. But when the aliens tried to intercept it, they discovered that the supply ship carried enough firepower to level a continent. Attention, hostile vessels, said Do-hyun over the open communication channels. You have attacked a peaceful human colony. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. 1 ship against 57? Laughed Seok-jin. Deathworlders are even more arrogant than I thought. Sir, we're detecting massive energy readings from that ship, reported one of Seok-jin's officers. Their weapon systems are unlike anything in our database. It's a cargo ship, said Seok-jin. How dangerous can it be? He got his answer 30 seconds later when Do-hyun's ship opened fire. The first salvo disabled 12 alien vessels without destroying them. The second salvo created a defensive grid that prevented the remaining ships from launching their fighters. This is impossible, whispered Seok-jin, watching his fleet being systematically neutralized by a single human vessel. How can one ship defeat an entire battle group? Because it's crewed by Deathworlders, said his tactical officer grimly. Within an hour, the entire hegemony fleet was disabled and drifting powerless in orbit around Kepler 442b. But Do-hyun wasn't finished. Instead of destroying the helpless ships, he began transmitting medical assistance frequencies. Attention, hegemony vessels, he said. We are detecting life support failures on several of your ships. We are deploying rescue shuttles to assist your crews. Rescue shuttles? Said Seok-jin in confusion. They're sending rescue shuttles? Sir, they're actually trying to help us, said his tactical officer. They could destroy us all, but instead they're trying to save our crews. Within hours, human medical teams were aboard the disabled alien ships, repairing life support systems and treating injured crew members. Captain Do-hyun personally delivered emergency supplies to Seok-jin's flagship. I don't understand, said Seok-jin as human medics worked to save his injured officers. We attacked you. We destroyed your colony. Why are you helping us? Because that's what neighbors do, said Do-hyun simply. You made a mistake, but that doesn't mean your people should die for it. But we're enemies, said Seok-jin. No, said Do-hyun. You're just scared, and scared people do stupid things sometimes. Down, on the planet's surface, human engineers were already working to rebuild the damaged infrastructure. The grain silos were being reconstructed with improved designs that could better handle the acid rain. The processing facilities were being upgraded with more efficient systems. They're rebuilding everything, reported one of Seok-jin's intelligence officers. And they're making it better than it was before, while simultaneously treating our wounded and repairing our ships, added another officer. Seok-jin stared at the tactical display showing human activities throughout the system. Ships that had come to fight were now providing humanitarian aid. Warriors who should have been executing prisoners were instead setting up refugee camps for the displaced alien crews. What kind of predators are these? He whispered. The kind that don't know they're predators, said his tactical officer. Earth's Deathworlders answered the SOS, and the galaxy regretted it. 6 months after the incident at Kepler 442b, Director Na Yun sat in her new office on Galactic Central Station and reviewed the morning's emergency requests. As head of the newly formed Human Assistance Coordination Office, she processed an average of 47 distress calls per day. Another toxic spill on Rigel 7th, said her assistant, Captain Min Ho, placing a data pad on her desk. The local authorities are requesting immediate hazmat response. Send the 5th Engineering Corps, said Na Yun without looking up from her reports. They specialize in corrosive environments. The Centauran trade ship lost in the Magellan Nebula? Dispatch. The 7th Search and Rescue Squadron. They're already in that sector. The asteroid mining disaster in the Tau Ceti system? Contact Admiral Jun Ho. His people have experience with deep space recovery operations. Min Ho shook his head as he updated the mission assignments. 6 months ago, nobody had ever heard of humans. Now half the galaxy won't make a move without consulting us first. It's not our fault, said Naun. We just happened to be the only species crazy enough to work in the places where disasters happen. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The galaxy's fear of humanity had created exactly the situation they had hoped to avoid. Unable to match human capabilities in hostile environments, the galactic community had gradually become dependent on Earth's children for all the dangerous jobs nobody else wanted to do. Ma'am, we have a Priority 1 emergency from the Vegan Empire, said Min Ho. Solar flare activity has disabled their orbital defense platforms around Vega Prime. They're requesting immediate technical assistance. Nayan looked up from her reports. The Vegan Empire? Aren't they the ones who tried to destroy our colony 6 months ago? The same ones, said Min Ho. War Marshal Seok Jin is personally requesting human assistance. I suppose it's hard to maintain your dignity when your home system's defenses are failing, said Nayun. Send the 12th Technical Support Group, and make sure they pack extra radiation gear. On the bridge of his flagship, War Marshal Seok Jin watched human engineering teams working to repair the orbital platforms that protected his homeworld. The solar flare that had knocked out the platforms would have been a minor inconvenience to most systems, but Vega Prime was particularly vulnerable to radiation damage. Sir, the human teams have restored power to Platform 7, reported his tactical officer. They estimate full system restoration within 12 hours. 12 hours? Said Seok Jin. Our best estimates said it would take 3 weeks. They brought specialized equipment designed for high radiation environments. Apparently, they use similar systems on their own worlds. Seok Jin had spent the past 6 months studying human capabilities, trying to understand the species that had so easily defeated his fleet. What he had learned had shaken his understanding of warfare itself. Humans didn't fight like any other species. They didn't seek to dominate or destroy their enemies. Instead, they seemed to view conflict as a problem to be solved. They would defeat you completely, then immediately begin helping you recover from the defeat. Sir, incoming message from the human work teams, said his communications officer. They're reporting some kind of technical problem. Put it through, said Seok Jin. Captain Do Hyun's voice came through the speakers. War Marshal Seok Jin, we've encountered a complication while repairing Platform 7. It looks like the radiation damage was more extensive than we initially thought. Can you still fix it? Asked Seok Jin. Oh, we can fix it, said Do Hyun, but we noticed that your entire defensive grid has the same vulnerability. If you get hit by another solar flare, you'll have the same problem again. What do you suggest? We could upgrade your entire system while we're here, install better shielding, more resilient power systems, improved backup protocols. It would take about a week, but you'd be protected against future solar activity. Seok Jin stared at his tactical display in disbelief. You want to upgrade our planetary defenses for free? It's not free, said Do Hyun. You're paying us to fix the current problem. The upgrades are just good engineering practice. But these are military systems, strategic defense platforms. So, you're offering to make your enemy's defenses stronger. There was a pause on the communication channel. War Marshal, with respect, we're not your enemy, we never were. You attacked us because you were afraid and we defended ourselves, but that doesn't make us enemies. Then what does it make us? Neighbors, said Do-hyun. Neighbors who got off to a bad start. Later that evening, Seok-jin stood in his private quarters aboard the flagship and reviewed the day's events. Human engineering teams had not only repaired his defensive platforms, they had made them 30% more efficient than the original designs. They could have sabotaged the systems, he said to his aide, Colonel Kyung-soo. They could have installed backdoors or hidden weapons. Instead, they made our defenses better than they were before. Yes, sir, said Kyung-soo. It's unusual behavior for a conquering species. That's just it, said Seok-jin. They're not trying to conquer anything. They're just trying to help everyone stay alive. On Earth, philosopher Kite was putting the finishing touches on his latest essay. The Gentle Tyranny had already been translated into 47 galactic languages and was being read throughout civilized space. The greatest irony of our age, he wrote, is not that humanity has become the galaxy's dominant species, but that they achieved dominance by refusing to dominate anyone. He paused in his writing and looked out the window of his study. Earth's blue skies and white clouds looked so peaceful, so normal, it was hard to believe that this beautiful world was considered a hellish death world by the rest of the galaxy. 6 months ago, he continued writing, the galaxy called for help, and the Deathworlders answered. Now they find themselves dependent on the very beings they sought to avoid, protected by monsters who refuse to see themselves as anything other than neighbors. His communication console chimed with an incoming message. It was from Admiral Taemin, the cargo captain who had started everything by answering a simple distress call. Professor Kite, said Taemin's voice, we've received another emergency signal. This time it's coming from the galactic core. A passenger liner has lost power near a black hole. The locals say it's impossible to reach them. Are you going? Asked Kite. Of course we're going, said Taemin. Nobody dies on my watch. Kite smiled and returned to his writing. The final lesson of humanity's emergence into galactic society is perhaps the most important. Sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't the monster in the darkness. It's the monster that insists on turning on the lights and making sure everyone is safe. He saved his work and closed the document. Outside his window, Earth's children were preparing for another rescue mission in the depths of space, ready to risk their lives for strangers they had never met. The galaxy had learned to live with its protectors. Whether it liked them or not was no longer relevant. Humanity had become indispensable, not through conquest or political maneuvering, but through the simple act of refusing to let anyone die when they could prevent it. In the end, the galaxy's greatest fear had come to pass. The Deathworlders had taken control of galactic civilization. They had done it by answering every cry for help, solving every crisis, and protecting everyone who needed protection. And the most terrifying part was that they genuinely didn't understand why anyone would find that frightening. Admiral Taemin's ship, now called the New Iron Crane and upgraded with the latest rescue equipment, prepared to depart for the galactic core. His crew had grown from 3 to 300, but his mission remained the same. Navigation, plot a course for the distress beacon, he ordered. Maximum speed. Sir, that region of space is considered impossible to navigate, said his new tactical officer. So was the Veil Nebula, said Taemin. But we managed. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading toward another impossible rescue, the galaxy watched and waited. They had learned that when humans said, "Nobody dies on my watch," they meant it literally. And somehow, that was more terrifying than any threat of conquest could ever be.